Thank you for joining us. I can see our numbers are increasing in the live stream. So I'm Dr. Trevor Norris, Professor of Philosophy of Education at Brock University, and I'm the Director of the Posthumanism Research Institute. Thank you for joining us. I want to suggest, if you haven't yet, then please go to our PRI website. You can see some past recordings and other resources we have, and also consider joining the PRI as an affiliate. Before we start with our speakers today, I want to share some updates and announcements regarding the PRI. Our next event is going to be at noon on Monday, May 5th, when Koichi Sato, the author of Marx and the Anthropocene, will be giving a talk with the same title. That'll be the last event of the season. We're really looking forward to that. That's quite a well-known book, quite an influential book. So we're looking forward to that. We've also been having conversations about our scheduling for next year. We've been talking about a variety of panels and potential reading groups on a few different topics. One would be on posthumanism and the end of liberal democracy. The other, posthumanism and psychoanalysis. Posthumanism and artificial intelligence. And then a very central one. We'd like to do something very central, very foundational on what is posthumanism. So today's talk is a part of a series that the PRI has in partnership with the Latin American Posthumanism Network. Our first talk back in the fall semester with Victor Krebs and a response by Elizabeth Neswald is now up on our YouTube. You're welcome to go see that. And so for today, I'd like to welcome our two speakers. Lorena Rojas-Parma will be presenting, and then David Tabachnick is going to be serving as a respondent. So thank you very much for joining us, and we'll begin with Lorena.
Okay. Can I start now?
Yes, you can go ahead.
Perfect. Well, thank you very much. I want to express my gratitude to the Posthuman Research Institute.
Can I ask you to speak a little closer to the microphone?
Oh, okay.
If you're able to?
Sure.
Because there is a little bit of an echo in that room.
Okay. I was saying I wish to express my gratitude. Do you hear me?
Yes.
To the Posthuman Research Institute, to Trevor Norris and David Tabachnick, who kindly joined me this morning, and especially to Gabi Valcarce, who has made these meetings possible with the Latin American Posthumanism Network. I hope she's connected. This dissertation has a very interesting name, A Poietic and Intelligent Cosmos, Rethinking Existence and Technology. And I'll start with Alpha, the path of trees. I would like to begin this reflection on cosmic technology with the second stanza of the poem Árboles, Trees, by Eugenio Montejo. It came to me as a place from which I could gather momentum to shape some ideas that are already finding their own way. That technology belongs to existence. That it is the
Lorena,
way.
can I ask, we do need to be a little louder, so either speaking louder or closer to the microphone, if it's on your on your computer or if it's on your earpiece.
Okay, let's see now. Do you hear me now better?
That's not really changed. You're leaning in closer or speaking louder. Although now we have a bit of feedback.
Yeah. Okay, now?
Yeah, if you speak just a bit louder than normal.
Okay. So I'll start again, just a few lines,
You can just
right?
continue.
Yeah. Okay. And I was saying I wanted to start with the poem Árboles, Trees, by Eugenio Montejo. Now? It came to me as a place from which I could gather momentum to shape some ideas that are already finding their own way. That technology belongs to existence. That it is the way in which existence expresses and reveals itself. Julio Cortázar once said in an interview that he was a man of few ideas, few in the logical sense, and that he followed a different path, one of glimpses and half visions of certain windows that suddenly open and let you see something. This more adventurous, spontaneous path of possible windows, where there are also birds, fireflies, and trees, find its way into these brief reflections, which are more experimental than they are pretentious in claiming theoretical or definitive words. So, this is not philosophy of technology, stricto sensu, but philosophy thinking how the cosmos could express itself in such an astonishing manner. If the cosmos is expanding in constant transformation, perhaps our approaches to things are also always in a state of becoming, with the possibility of being re-articulated or leaving a discrete trace somewhere. This journey will allow me to narrate the cracks through which I perceive that the intelligence of the cosmos, of existence, is also technological. Montejo's verse reads, "It's difficult to feel the shortest book with the thoughts of trees. Everything is vague, fragmented. Today, for instance, on the way to my house, hearing a black thrush shriek, the last cry of one who won't reach another summer, I realized that in his voice a tree was speaking, one of so many. But I don't know what to do with this sharp, deep sound. I don't know in what type of script I could set it down." Unquote. And I could remember 2 lines of the first stanza of the poem. Quote, "The tree speaks so little, you know. They spend their entire life meditating and moving their branches." Unquote. Indeed, it is difficult to make a book out of the thought of trees. There is vagueness and fragmentation, meditation, moving in the open air, and the call of the black thrush, which is the tree's own cry. But the poet, whose attentive soul heard that in the bird's voice the tree itself was speaking, felt the anguish of realizing that it's his own resource, the technique of writing, which Plato lamented as the ally of forgetfulness, would now allow him to record what he had heard. Despite not knowing what to do, Montejo reveals what contemporary philosophy and science emphasize: the interrelation and communication of species, the interconnectedness of all existence, the logos that permeates and constitutes everything, and the creative condition of this shared whole, as per classical philosophy once recognized. Today, and somewhat surprisingly, we read that intelligence, communication, or expression are no longer merely human traits. Alongside scientific research confirming the intelligence of plants or cells, posthumanism, in dialogue with contemporary science, has philosophically acknowledged that existence is vital, intelligent, interconnected, poietic, autopoietic, or symbiotic, that is, self-creating in a creative, interwoven way. I have to say, though, there are intense debates between botanists and biologists. I began then by asserting that we must listen to the poet when he tells us that the thoughts of trees are fragmentary. For not only does he know that they think, that they feel and experience within themselves, as Paco Calvo has shown and Montejo reveals when he hears a cry of weariness. But Montejo also reminds us of similarly fragmentary thoughts, like those of Heraclitus. There are thoughts that do not seek to suffocate existence with weighty paragraphs that long to clarify everything once and for all. Rather, they allow themselves the depth of revelation in the fleeting register of what is always in the making. The fragment, with its fragmentum, being part of something, evokes for us the nature of interconnectedness more than the neat block of explanations. Heraclitus knew that trees are logos, that the cosmos is intelligent, and, in his words, an ever-living fire, here eyeing zone. In the spirit of this connection, Montejo's tree found its strength in the bird's voice, because both are aware, as the bread says, quote, that there are territories that depend on being sung, or more precisely, that depend only on being sung, end quote. And so they share the cry, its fragments, the territory, and the agony. There is a great variety of, quote again, ways of inhabiting these multiple worlds, end quote. And these multiple worlds, sophisticated and precise in their interconnections, harmoniously assembling their fragments, correspond to the expression of an intelligent cosmos. And I would also dare to call it a technological cosmos. From these signals of my own intuition, from my meditations among the trees, from my attentive listening and reading, I believe that the cosmos expresses its diversity through its technologies. The intricate cosmic composition discovered, unveiled by quantum physics, the subatomic and atomic reality we share with galaxies, with trees, and with ourselves, a wonder that continues to amaze and move me, reveals that we are all part of the cosmos in very different ways. We share in an existence revealed in plurality. And if nature is intelligent, we might dare to imagine it as technological. Thus, techno becomes a knowing how found in birds, trees, stars, minerals, bacteria, or fish, not just in humans. In this sense, I want to explore the possibility of understanding the connections between cosmos and technology, between existence and its technological way of being, imagining it as if I were single fragments and multiplying worlds, throwing my own cry like a tree. Contemporary botany and biology declare that intelligence is inherent in life itself. Yet, we are so attached to the dogma of neuronal intelligence, so committed to a brain-centered consciousness, says Papocalvo, that we find it difficult to imagine other possibilities of inner experience. This is understandable, he asserts, because it challenges the very foundations of human experience. However, if we recognize that the highly sophisticated processes of plants stem from the intelligence of life, we can also think of them as technologies, diverse, sophisticated, effective, horizontal technologies that mesh with and reinforce an interconnected view of things. This, I believe, allows for a more respectful approach to existence, for its intelligence, shaped by the force of evolution, has achieved marvels such as the aerial technologies of dragonflies, the release of oxygen during photosynthesis, or communication among forests. But we're talking about an expanded intelligence, not only in all that is green, but perhaps even more boldly, of all of existence, which includes the complex processes of everything that exists. Stars, planets, flowers, molecules, symphonies, novels, the exchange of signals among bees, fungi, birds, or humans. In other words, I make the connection between intelligence and technology, between the choosing, understanding, speaking, and signifying of logos, and the talent, work, revelation, knowing how of technique. let's not forget knowing and feeling of intelego. I am aware that it is necessary to elaborate on these connections more extensively, but for now, I merely wish to mention them, as I don't have much time available. However, this suffices for my argument. If we recognize contemporary matter as intelligent, creative, poietic, and self-governing, as new materialisms and posthumanism point out, why not technological? If that is the case, we would be immersed in a technological cosmos, with us as an expression of that technology. I like to speak of the cosmos in the ancient Greek aesthetic sense, polytheistic, as Hillman says, referring to, quote, the order and arrangement of the things of the world, unquote. That is the familiar order and beauty, not some distant, empty void. Certainly not when we know that the cosmic composition is shared by all. A poietic cosmos seems closer to aesthetic and horizontal creativity of existence. Existentia means to stand out, existere. It is therefore to manifest, to show oneself in accordance with the cosmos' own arrangement, composition, and beauty, as Hillman says. To think of its creative and intelligent movements, of its evolutionary and triumphant processes, as technologies, poietic expressions, requires us, of course, to decenter the human, but also to decenter technology as an exclusively human act. For it belongs not only to plants, or to what we traditionally call living as opposed to inert, but to the cosmos itself. We already know that existence is intelligent, poietic, and self-regulating. Building on these post-human insights, which I assume we all share here, I will try to think about cosmic technologies. Beta, Wood Wide Web. At the beginning of the 20th century, Maurice Maeterlinck had already spoken of the intelligence of flowers, of the thoughtful evolution of nature, and of a certain discoveries of which man is proud were already known to some species. For example, he describes in detail the flotation system of Utricularia, carnivorous plants. Quote, "Is it not curious to find in this ancient little plants apparatus some of the most fruitful and modern inventions of mankind? The play of bulbs, the pressure of liquids and air, that is, the Archimedean principle studied and applied. The engineer who first attached a flotation device to a submerged vessel never suspected that an analogous procedure had been in use for thousands of years." Unquote. Generous and thoughtful, he acknowledges that the Archimedean principle has already been studied and implemented by these flowers. Today, however, we are benefiting from breakthroughs in biomimicry, a discipline that looks to nature as a model for technology design, given nature's efficiency and ingenuity in solving problems and its tremendous ability to leverage available resources. Dragonflies, for example, have served as models for engineering and robotics in the design of helicopter rotors. Likewise, NASA scientists are using a material that mimics the texture of scales of shark skin, while the design of solar panels now mimic the movement of sunflowers following the sun's path from dawn to dusk, the most efficient way to capture maximum light. The way trees regulate temperature through transpiration has been adapted to ventilate buildings. And the self-cleaning mechanism of the lotus flower has inspired our own technologies. Yesterday, a very dear colleague, Professor Lafontaine, remembered me this fragment of Democritus. Quote, "We are pupils of the animals in the most important things. The spider for spinning and mending, the swallow for building, the songsters, swan, and nightingale for singing, by way of imitation." Unquote. The examples I have mentioned are, of course, just a few that suggest a much closer relationship, I think, between nature and technology than we have been led to believe. Technology itself is akin to nature. It is not alien to a conscious kind of know-how born of logos, nor consequently is it an exclusive human enterprise. Without wishing to discuss biomimesis at length, for that is not my concern here, the premise alone is sufficient for me to study nature's successful processes for the design of technologies. A vital and intelligent cosmos revealed through highly sophisticated processes can indeed be imagined as technological. Indeed, if nature is recognized as a pattern or guide for providing solutions to complex technological problems, as Benyon suggests, if we study nature in order to make technology, as Leonardo da Vinci did it, why should we not also consider the sophisticated processes of existence of nature itself as technological? In what sense are the intricately verified communications between heart and brain recently discovered by neuroscience not technological communications? And why do we call digital technology by that name, but not the fungal mycelial network in forests that communicates so effectively? It is interesting that biomimesis speaks of inspiration from nature in the design of technologies, but fails to recognize that these patterns which it imitates, mimesis, can also be seen as technologies. When we resist calling them that, I think we remain in some way under the sway of a human nature or nature-technology dualism. Nevertheless, Heidegger's well-known and important insight into the proximity of technique and poiesis is, in this sense, a major step forward. By acknowledging now the creative nature of matter of all existence, we can also conceive of its inherently technological condition. Technique reveals, uncovers, discloses the creative possibilities of existence, of the cosmos, its multiplicity, its constant change, its perfect being of trees, flowers, forests, or birds, are all expressed through highly effective and sophisticated technique. Let us remember that Heidegger's Greek example of poiesis is precisely a blossoming flower. And from there, we could also think or imagine of intelligence and technology. Even physis is poiesis, says Heidegger, in the most elevated sense of the word. I am not referring to technology as a mere means to an end, but rather as an expressive condition of existence, its poietic material, to use Emilio Deleuze's expression. He says also that poiesis is an ontological concept. Thus, the communication of forests through fungal mycelia, the hijacking of cells by viruses, or the nitrogen calculations of plant roots can all be considered technologies. For, as Teresa Aguilar says, quote, technology is nothing but nature, unquote. Technology is no longer simply an artifice, even to human, exclusive to human ingenuity, and another outside of nature, or a kind of pathesis. It is the intelligent and creative expression of the cosmos. As Ferrando says, quote, with this hermeneutical expansion of meaning, Heidegger approached technology ontologically, not only as means, but as a way of revealing. And, this is what I want to emphasize, technology is, more clearly, a technology of existence. It is also poiesis in the process of worldview, unquote. Gamma, electroacoustic bird. In this sense, Socrates distinguishes what is done through technique from what results from mere empeiria. This distinction is important because it allows me to affirm the connection between techne and logos, and thus their connection to an intelligent technological cosmos. Indeed, whatever cannot account for what it does and for the reasons behind it, says Socrates, amounts to no more than empeiria, whereas techne, inseparable from logos, cannot be irrational or express argum pragma, things without logos. Empeiria is often translated as practical knowledge, practice, a form of skill, since experience, perhaps the closest term, can be somewhat confusing. Socrates strips it of logos and contrasts it with the know-how of techne. And techne always implies logos, a knowledge of causes, and enikos, as Diogenes says, that facilitates the passage from non-being to being, is poiesis. We dwell in an intelligent, poietic cosmos that has demonstrated its efficacy over millions of years of evolution, as biomimesis affirms, and that manifests itself or reveals itself technologically, we might say. It seems more tenuous to suggest that the aerodynamic design of dragonfly, the light system of the firefly, the synchronized singing of whales, the calculations made by birds crossing the Atlantic, the communication among bees, or the fungal networks in forests are the products of mere empeiria. In fact, we now imitate the designs to conceive and produce our own technologies. Seen in this way, the relationship between technology and nature would be revealed simply as technologies, and the confluence between what we do and the technique of existence itself would testify to it. I don't mean that only humans create technology. Of course, trees and fireflies do. That's what I'm saying. The difference is that they don't claim exclusivity and are mindful of interconnectedness. Let's consider, for example, xenobots, programmable organisms made from the living cells of the frog Xenopus levis, the biological computer, which uses DNA molecules and can perform complex calculations, or the wetware in general, which implies this compatibility of technologies, this secret communication of things, pointing to interrelation rather than ontological separation. The synchronous meeting of technologies, their potential for harmonic encounter, their sympatheia, if I may, also appears, for example, in music, especially contemporary electroacoustic music, which often merges the birdsong and the sound of insects, forming and sharing territories. Miguel Noya, an electronic musician and author of El sutil sonido de las plumas, the subtle sound of feathers, comments on the place and way in which the sounds of the piece were recorded. Quote, at certain hours of the day, particularly in the morning at specific times of the year. This little woodland is predominantly inhabited by a bird known as the conoto negro, black conoto. The conoto's call is complex and highly appealing, resembling an electronic electroacoustic one, says the musician. Observation revealed that the conoto performs a series of ritualistic actions before singing. First, it flutters its wings, producing a distinct rushing sound of air, and then begins its call, which has some recognizable and repeated variations. Unquote. Although its singing ritual is quite beautiful, as it prepares for a concert for the world, I want to highlight its similarity to our electronic and electroacoustic sounds. Synthetic sounds, electricity, computers, synthesizers, all this manipulation finds a kindred resonance in the elaborate call of a forest bird. This electroacoustic bird inhabits and multiplies worlds in unexpected and powerful ways. I quote Ferrando, "This doesn't mean that one manifestation is better or worse than another, nor does it suggest that they are separate or that their potentials are already fixed." Unquote. And just as birdsong is so sophisticated, I want to give special mention to fireflies, those stunning little lights of the night, a nocturnal gesture of ultimate technology, able to be and produce luminescence all by themselves. Their glow also testifies to cosmic synchronicity, a secret harmony that not only beautifies the territory instantly, that to me is great. A new way, perhaps more carefully, so that the light doesn't blind or dazzle. For us, the Earth of Plato's luminous intelligence, knowledge combined with supreme clarity, this is almost an act of rebellion. We forget the knowledge of the faint, of the discrete, of what isn't so clear. To communicate with them requires only our attention, our willingness to learn in different ways. I quote Martinez Claris. The glowworms aren't this all-consuming light. They are communicative act in which the synchronization in a particular or not entirely isolated place allows a different way of illuminating. Unquote. And a different way of illuminating is a different way of seeing, of perceiving, of understanding, of knowing life. Because, as the prayer beautifully states, their light doesn't crush or quote everything under the light of explanation. They give us little lanterns. Unquote. They remind us of what trees teach. Their fragments and reflections don't crush life under the Apollonian light of explanation either. Fireflies embody the technique of light, of synchronicity, little lanterns of nocturnal knowledge that guard what cannot always be explained, almost as if they have always known that some things just are. And delta, liminal. I have many questions, doubts, still plenty, of course. But my inner suspicion is that the vitality of existence, its magnificent, complex, and sophisticated expressions is technological. Recently, a superstructure has been discovered in the universe, an astonishing cluster of galaxies. the largest known to date, which has been beautifully named Kipu, referring to its striking resemblance to the Inca system of counting and recording. This proximity, these interconnected designs and revelations help me to feel the invisible web that weaves existence and strengthen my suspicion of a deep sense of things, this secret love, as Oscar Wilde says, and technology as the way of being of existence itself. Perhaps on the way to Montejo's house, when he heard the tree become a thrush, there were fireflies. One of the great wonders is that we can never know exactly where that mysterious little lantern might appear. One that has heard our own cry and has come, thanks to that love that unites all things, to offer us help with its little bonfire. Maybe now I need it more than ever. These lines are nothing more than a threshold, a liminal act for thinking about the relationship between technology and the cosmos. Perhaps the light of fireflies is not technology in the sense that we speak of our electric light, nor the wings of dragonflies, nor the synchronized song of whales, nor the self-spinning systems of the lotus flower. I lack the strength to think in fragments as the trees do. But in times when we are once again questioning the concept of life, I don't find the ontological separation to consider some processes as technological and others not. They are diverse, of course, just like existence. They are complex processes that produce things like the dams built by beavers or our clothing and boots. If the arguments are that some are artificial and made by humans, we are once again in the middle of dualism and anthropocentrism. In any case, certain breaks, cracks, trimmings, pieces that might fit somewhere, electroacoustic birdsong might emerge from these simple reflections. Maybe we will find a window, like Cortázar said, and see something. I have mentioned poets, disciplines, philosophers, and important words, each requiring a separate dissertation. But I need all my strength in this brief space, paraphrasing Bennett, to ponder the possibilities of the technological cosmos. The good thing about all this is that these realities continue to exist in a majestic way. The not so good thing is that we continue to believe that our species is uniquely intelligent and technologically exceptional. Bonus track. Not very long. Mystery. Beyond technical. Of all the objections we can raise at this moment, and there must be many, I have one that I simply cannot leave unsaid. I confess that I have thought about it, walked with it, tried to run into a cry or a fragment of a tree. But if the poet was unable to record it, I would have no better chance. I am thinking of two extraordinary phenomena, great occasions in which existence proclaims itself, reveals truth of great depth, and does so undeniably without death. I will mention them only for the sake of time, knowing that they require separate deep treatment. Aware of this, I will refer to the moment when the muse or the divine speaks to the poet, inspiring him with her mania, madness, as Plato says, and makes him the bearer of unquestionable truths. And Teoría y Juego del Duende, de Federico García Lorca, finding duende, that's the translation, who is neither a muse nor an angel, and as he rightly worms, but one who must be awakened in the deepest chambers of the blood. And God, the duende is not like the muse. She behaves explicitly differently. They share what matters to us here, their distance from death. We all know that Plato was not particularly fond of Poe, but he was able to give madness a place from which to speak truths that only a possessed poet could tell. Socrates tells Phaedrus in his defense of maniae, of madnesses, quote, "Whoever then approaches the doors of poetry without the madness of the muses, convinced that he will become a true poet thanks only to technique, will be incomplete, and the work he creates in his right mind will be eclipsed by that of the inspired and possessed." Unquote. Socrates is suggesting a close connection between the revelation of truth and the madness, a divine intervention that is already quite beautiful, and thus an explicit affront to technique. For there is no poetic truth in one's right mind, using logos, technique, and in a Platonic sense, it is the truth of existence. The Aeon, equally clear when Socrates says to the rhapsode, quote, "For the poet is a light thing, winged, sacred, and he's incapable of creating poetry until he has been made divine, is out of his mind, and reason no longer dwells in him. But they do all these things and speak so many in such beautiful words on their subjects, not by virtue of technique, but rather by the divine predisposition which directs each one to excel in whatever field the muse directs him." Unquote. The poet no longer inhabits intelligence, so he has no technique to speak beautifully. Instead, he follows the divine path into regions of deep delirium, those akin to truth. Therefore, when intelligence withdraws, so does technique, and the fullness of truth and beauty emerges. So, there is something, a kind of dimension of existence that reveals truth that is not technological. As for the duende, it is a mysterious Andalusian creature dwelling in the black sounds or dark sounds, los sonidos negros. I must say, this is a very difficult text to translate. Some people say it is impossible. So I feel I must read it in Spanish too. This challenging experience for technology lives in the duende's heart. And this is, as Garcia Lorca says, Spaniard one. But it can be very extensive. So, with a heavy heart, I will read a translation. The duende is descendant of the daimon of Socrates and the genius of the car, who, quote, tired of circles and lines, escaped through the canals to hear the drunken sailors sing. I must say in Spanish, harto de círculos y líneas, salió por los canales para oír cantar a los marineros borrachos. In this way, heartbreaking and sharp is how we remember it. To explain it is incredibly difficult and perhaps always treacherous because el duende is a struggle, not a thought. El duende es un luchar, no un pensar. To seek the duende, says Garcia Lorca, there is no map, no practice. We only know that it scorches the blood with a temperature of glass, that it exhausts, that it rejects every sweet geometry we have learned. Unquote, unquote. I would like to quote the story of a certain Andalusian cantaora, female singer, known as La Niña de los Peines. After she had finished singing, García Lorca says, she heard, I quote, one of those little dancing men who suddenly appear out of a liquor bottle's shout, Viva Paris! As if to say, here we don't care about talent or technique or mastery. We care about something else. Unquote. Then, after drinking a big glass of fiery cachaça, the cantaora resumed her song, but now with duende. Quote, she had to give up her gifts and her certainties so that her duende could come and condescend to wrestle hand with her hand to hand. Unquote. She abandons postures, masteries, so that something different can emerge. And, says García Lorca, the arrival of the duende always means a radical change within all the forms built on old levels, manifesting itself with sensations of utterly new freshness, with the quality of a rose that has just bloomed, like a miracle that provokes something close to religious ecstasy. Unquote. This is not the realm of technique, of what can be repeated or redone. Here's something else is revealed, some other power. Here, the Corybantes dance in delirium, the lyric poets sing, the Menads draw honey and milk from the weavers, as Plato says. And the duende attacks Saint Teresa, Santa Teresa, with an arrow for having stolen his last secret. Delirium, madness, pain, abysses. We are not. We are in front of something else. Another dimension of existence that is both extraordinary and beautiful, and yet devastating in the deepest sense, as in Plato, Saint Teresa, Santa Teresa, or García Lorca. I believe that such experiences speak to the power of things and allow me to recognize a space for the mysterious, the secret, and the carefully guarded treasures that are sung, read, written, or danced in this world. What is this state of ecstasy, a shuttering of technique, an odor so strange as to defy it altogether? It does not seem so. The situation, I think, is more complicated. The relationship between these spheres of existence, one and many, is tense, mysterious, enigmatic, unpredictable, at least to the human eye and over human time. I would venture, once again, that this ecstasy visits those who know their technique intimately. The duende attacks those who master it, the technique. The muse inspires the poet who truly knows his art. Perhaps this tension is what distinguishes those superior souls in whom the miracle of enraptured truth is realized. It certainly doesn't happen to everyone who has technique, but from what I've seen and experienced, it can. But it is unpredictable, mysterious. Posthumanism, as Pepperell said, let us not forget, returns to us the possibility of thinking of mythological, phantasmagoria, or paranormal reality, of divinity, or duende. Plato speaks of the madness of the lyric poets. Garcia Lorca speaks of the duende of Saint Teresa, or Goya. We could think of Ella Fitzgerald or Nina Simone. When Rafael Cadenas received the Cervantes Prize, the most prestigious literary award for Spanish-speaking writers, he said in his speech, quote, "Quantum physics has restored the impenetrable mystery of the cosmos," unquote. And with that, he weaves these complex relationships out of the very skin of the cosmos, of existence, leaving us to wonder if mystery might also be something cosmic that constitutes us all. Nonetheless, and although we cannot posit any physical law to define it, sometimes when a divine or anguished will so chooses, this enchantment, this truth that surges from the soul of the feet, will tear through the song of those who know how to sing, as if their destiny had surpassed him all limits, had surpassed all limits, and thus deserved the assistance of the divine or of that spirit of the earth, the duende. As I said before, these experiences have a tense, complicated relationship with death. In a sense, they are interlinked, but that too must be patiently considered and developed at another time. My heart, however, had to bring it up, for it is a realm of existence that challenges a technological cosmos, and we should keep an open door to this too. Thank you very much for your patience.
All right, thank you very much. I just wanted to mention that Dr. Lorena Rojas-Parma is teaching at the Universidad Católica Andrés Bello in Caracas, Venezuela. And our respondent today is going to be Dr. David Tabachnick, who is a professor of political philosophy at Nipissing University in Ontario. Thank you.
You want me to take it away here, Trevor?
Yes, thank you. Go ahead.
Okay, I want to really thank Lorena. That was an excellent presentation. I really enjoyed reading your paper. Certainly learned a lot of things. And yes, the references to poets and other authors, which I wasn't that familiar with, was quite enlightening and helpful. Thank you again. So what I'm going to do in this response is basically try to explain the paper in a way I understood it, and then maybe offer a few, I think, pretty hard-hitting critiques. We'll see if they actually land at all. Of course, I could have misunderstood the whole thing, so the critiques may also miss, but we'll see. So this paper is a meditation on the meaning and place of technology within the cosmos or ordered universe. From the outset, this is a unique and I thought quite surprising approach, as we normally understand technology as somehow foreign to the natural world or just existence broadly. Technology, just in sort of a colloquial or common way, sometimes is viewed as a monster of our own creation that will eventually destroy us. We're familiar with that trope. And at best, maybe it is something that is our salvation, that will save us from the deprivations of the natural world and human nature. Lots of references, for example, to the power of medicine, to cure us of disease, which is certainly a salvation of a certain sort. Lorena's approach here is, I think, actually quite distinct from Heidegger, even though Heidegger, of course, is referenced throughout the paper quite successfully, I think. And here's why it's distinct, in that what Heidegger is doing in much of his writing, not just when he's writing about technology, but he's talking about the unique ontological status of Dasein, or just human beings. Now, he wouldn't like me saying human beings, because that's specifically why he uses Dasein. But also there's a unique ontological status of technology for Heidegger. So Dasein has the unique ability to ask the question of being, and then more specifically here to ask the question concerning technology. Technology has unique ontological status because it is calling to us, Dasein, about its essence. Now, there's a couple of things going on here. Of course, the essence of technology, he describes this in framing or Gestell in the German. But in recognizing that essence, Gestell, he says that technology has within it the saving power. And the saving power then is the thing that perhaps, and I'm a little confused by Heidegger on this front, that perhaps in our recognition of the essence of technology, somehow we can avoid it overwhelming us, our essence as Dasein. That is my understanding of his project. So the ontological status of both humans and technology, or Dasein and technology, is very important to maintain. And I feel as though the discussion of the technological cosmos as presented is an effort actually to dissolve those distinctions in many ways. And so I think actually quite distinct then from Heidegger. Just getting into the bit of the text, Lorena writes, technology belongs to existence. That is the way in which existence expresses and reveals itself. This, of course, is similar to Heidegger's approach, deciding that something like existence, including human beings or Dasein, is revealed through, and I use this term, hopefully it makes sense, is revealed through unconcealment. Okay, so technology unconceals itself, or the essence of technology unconceals itself. And this revealing of the essence of technology, or unconcealing of the essence of technology, happens at particular and challenging times. Maybe when things are at risk or on a precipice. Things like poetry, rather than strict rationality, help us appreciate, and sometimes I think he uses the term gather, this revealing. So we can witness it. That's the unique thing about Dasein. So nothing else, at least according to Heidegger, can witness this unconcealment of the essence of technology. And this sometimes is a poetic experience, and I'll get to poesis in a moment, indeed, which is used also throughout the paper. So we need a non-rational approach, I think. And Heidegger, of course, attempts in his, let's put it this way, strange way of writing. He often employs poetry as well, Goethe, for example. That helps us shake out of the sort of technological scientific lens, which he thinks, of course, has overtaken philosophical thinking as well, or I should just say philosophy. He doesn't like philosophy particularly. He likes thinking, though. So that is interesting. So we have to get outside of the confines of the technological in order to appreciate the technological, or the scientific technological lens, as I put it, just in my own terms. So trying to sort of address some of the content of the paper then, just like hearing the black thrush shriek in Montejo's poem reveals the tree, we can witness technology if we pay attention to it in a different way outside of normal scientific approaches. So there's something calling to us. The thrush here is calling to us. We have to actually have ourselves oriented in the right way to hear it, right? We often just walk through the woods, for example, we just like hear a cacophony of noise. But if you actually listen, like if you like bird calls, you can actually really hear a cacophony of language going on. And I think that's partly the point of what's being said here. So like this cosmos that we're talking about here, the relationship between the tree, the bird call, and human beings is key. And this is like technology calling to us, telling something about our place in the cosmos or in existence, as well as technologies and our relationship to technology, of course. So this differentiates things from the manifold of existence. When the bird song comes out, the bird and the tree and actually us even hearing it somehow is differentiated, right? So it's just not a soup of subatomic particles, I think was some of the term you used, something like that, but actually a differentiation. And I think it goes back to that idea. Does that then mean there's ontological status when that differentiation occurs? And Heidegger certainly thinks so. So there is something intrinsic about this connection and communication, revealing something about the character of reality, which brings us outside of ourselves. We have to sort of say, no, it's not in the eye of the beholder at all. We are, in fact, part of the whole. We are fragments of the whole. We are able to glimpse something of the whole in being a fragment of that thing. We are not outside of it. We are in it. We are within it in that way. So that's the emancipation, if you will, that we can have through things like poetry or song, and just I'll call it non-rational thinking, non-technological thinking. That's it. So we can appreciate then this technological cosmos that may offer us a vision beyond this narrow lens which we live in day to day, the sort of instrumental thinking, the means to an end thinking that is a fairly big constant in our day-to-day lives. And thus, something of the tremendous diversity of existence and all of its interconnectedness is revealed to us. And I think that's what's going on in the paper and the myriad examples provided. Now, getting into the critiques, Trevor, tell me to be quiet if I'm going on too long here. Okay, so the first critique of this kind of presentation, I wonder if the author is making a basic distinction between techne, which again is commonly translated as technique, or more precisely technical knowledge, and then technology. So I've written on this subject, so it's a little unfair for me to bring it up, but what is the distinction between techne and technology? Where it may be that a techne is a bringing forth or a poiesis of things that would not be otherwise, as Aristotle puts it, the essence of technology is distinct. So Heidegger definitely makes different definitions, if I can use that term, between techne and technology. As Heidegger puts it, and this is about technology then, that the unconcealment of the essence of technology is the concealment of the unconcealment of the essence of all other things. Now, that's quite a sentence, but that's my gloss on lots of writing from Heidegger, mostly from a question concerning technology, but other things as well. So he uses the famous example of the Rhine River Valley. So just like the Rhine River Valley in its complexity and plurality is drowned out by the singular presence of the hydroelectric dam reservoir, all of existence is dominated by technology. So the plurality becomes technology, the essence of technology. So there can be no unconcealment of the essence of anything other than the unconcealment of the essence of technology, which is the unconcealment of the concealment of all other things. Thank you very much. That's silly, but that's Heidegger for you. So Heidegger, he thinks that there's something wrong with this attack on plurality, the creation of this pure manifold of existence. And that's what the saving power is. When we recognize this, that we say, oh, our essence is also being denied its own unconcealment or revealing, that's what technology is calling out to us as the reservoir fills up, if you will, as we are drowning along with the rest of the river valley, so to speak. And this somehow, frankly, I'm not sure how, now at least, that this will reassert our authentic relationship to existence. Now, for Heidegger at one time, that was through the brutality of the National Socialists in World War II. That somehow was going to be an authentic relationship back with existence. He does say, no, turns out that wasn't the case. A little late for that, Heidegger, but thank you very much. It's something else. So that's one critique, if you'll allow me, that you need to differentiate between techne or technical knowledge and technology. And I can expand on that if there's any questions. A second critique then, I'll put this under the broad category if the reference makes any sense, to the secret life of plants. I think this was a Stevie Wonder.
Of course.
Yeah, yes, okay. Secret life of plants. Okay, and the author claims that these plants have some intelligence or some kind of intelligence and the ability to computate, I believe was the term. being used here. Now, I don't think this is outrageous at all. I'm fairly convinced about this kind of thing. But does that then mean that we have to redefine the uniqueness of human intelligence? Throughout the paper, and somewhat understandably considering the topic, we were sort of like, human beings are elitists, if you will, because we think our human intelligence is so much better than everybody else's, or other things, rather, not everybody, but rather plants, animals, birds, etc., etc. That's fine. I don't have the problem with the critique of the hierarchy that we have traditionally placed human beings on, you know, the great chain of being, or you know, whatever the pyramid we sit upon. That kind of critique, I think, is justifiable and appropriate for this presentation. But that doesn't mean that human intelligence is somehow not unique. And if it is unique, then what makes it unique? And I think that question is still very legitimate, rather than just sort of dispensing with it. And I think that's what Heidegger wants us to do as well in his discussion of Dasein. Like, there is something unique of the status of human beings. Okay, so we may not be exceptional as such in the broadness of the universe. I think, you know, unless you're like a really devout religious person, thinking that we were created in the image of God, I think it's pretty easy for us to say that you know, our molecules and atoms are just the same as the rest of existence molecules and atoms, as far as I know. So that sort of suggests we're not exceptional, but I think nonetheless there is something unique about human beings. So just to say we must expand our conception of intelligence, this just broadens the meaning of the word intelligence. It leaves out any effort at the uniqueness or specificity of human intelligence. It just, basically there was a label on it, and now that label has been taken away by Lorena and her efforts here. And I'm trying to say that not so fast. Let's not give up on trying to define the uniqueness of human beings, or Dasein, as Heidegger calls it. Not that I'm necessarily agreeing with Heidegger, but that's what he's attempting to do here. So that's one thing. A little bit more, Trevor. Do I have time for going on? I haven't been paying attention. Okay.
Yeah, you have another minute or two.
Okay, so I'll try to wrap this up. I don't have that much more. So sure, we can be inspired by the natural world. Okay, but I don't see how being inspired by the natural world or the cosmos is technological. I just don't get it. We can compare the flight of the bumblebee or the dragonfly and be amazed at its complexity and efficiency. That doesn't mean the bumblebee and the dragonfly are technological. I just don't quite understand that. Is the World Wide Web, or rather the Wood Wide Web, technology? The author sincerely says, yes, it is. And I'm sort of saying, it doesn't make any sense. Why would we want it to be technological in that sense? And here I just say, and this will require some more explanation. So while every techne may be a poesis, not every poesis is a techne, is what I'm trying to say. And I can explain that a little bit more if there's any questions. Aristotle provides a key distinction, one that Heidegger took note of, that the products of techne have an external efficient cause, whereas things by nature or physis have an internal efficient cause. So the bench needs the carpenter to take it out of the wood, but the wood does not need a tree maker. The tree will just grow itself. It has an internal efficient cause. Okay, so if we then get rid of these distinctions, which I think Lorena is attempting to do in her paper, saying that all poesis is a techne, which again I disagree with. I think that what she's doing is undermining the point she made at the end. And I do have more than this, but I'll end here. But this is kind of my big critique, is that she's taking everything then in placing it back within the manifold of existence, that the differentiations that we make, or the ontological status that we give things, then actually obliterates our ability to actually appreciate the mystery in poetry, which she says is so important. But if there is no distinction, then we can't observe those things, if you will. We have to identify it as mysterious. Like, that is beyond my understanding. Thus, I do have an understanding. But if we blow up understanding entirely, or human intelligence entirely, we can't appreciate mystery. And that, again, is something that Heidegger wants us to do. So I just think the breaking down of these categories is an interesting effort, but I think, in fact, counter to the appreciation of the mystery and multitude and complexity of existence. Thank you very much.
Thank you, David.
All right, thank you very much. If you want to respond to that, Lorena, you can go ahead. We do have a few questions that have been coming up in the chat, and a few thank yous in the chat. But if you want to respond to Dave first, you can go ahead and do that.
I think it's better if I answer to David. Thank you very much, David. I think you understood perfectly what I was trying to say. The first thing I would say, I'm not so, I mean, what I try to elaborate, and I have to confess, is so daring. Is that okay? So every time people hear it said, what? Nature is technological, cosmic technological, what are you talking about? I know. But I want to, what I want to say right now is that I'm not so close to Heidegger when I think and feel these things. I just take this important ontological approach when he says, techne is a revelation, is so close to aletheia, you know, this close, revelation. So Heidegger makes this difference with the technological knowledge, of course, and I try to go to the ancient sense of technique he uses, because modern technology is devastating, you know that. And the example of the river that you already mentioned, so important. But maybe I should be more specific in this dissertation. I really connect with this sense of revelation in Spanish is desocultar, this aletheia, you know? This, what's hidden that I'm about to discover, to unveil. What is this? I mean, what I feel is that I'm not too close, I don't depend on Heidegger so much because there's a lot of things I don't share or I don't need, I don't know how to say this, to elaborate this difficult argument. Because you tell me, I don't see how an inspiration, like biomimicry does, could be technological. Well, I don't see an inspiration. My question is, why the mechanism of lettuce flowers, so sophisticated, is not considered technology? I mean, the point is, what, you know, this is a Socrates thing. What's the knowledge? What's technique? You know, what are we feeling, understanding when we say technique? When I think of these things, I'm not close to the idea of technology as something artificial or an other or something humans make. I don't see how the beaver and the dam of the beaver is not technological. I see that so sophisticated. You tell me, I don't see how, and I can tell you, I don't see why not. I don't see why not. What the beavers makes, is that okay? When they make a dam, is not as sophisticated and intelligent as things we make, or things we do. But you tell me, well, what about the uniqueness of our intelligence? I would say, well, I'm not so close to the hierarchy of beings, I have to confess. I do feel, believe, and I'm convinced that these arguments about the horizontal ontologies, relational ontologies, I just believe and feel and read and think and argument of horizontal way, so to speak. This chain of being, I don't know, I think of Mancuso or Gotcha or Calvo. They are botanical academics, and they are telling us intelligence is the possibility to solve problems. And we do resolve problems as plants do. And Mancuso is telling us, for instance, we should learn from plants when we have to solve some problems. So I don't know what makes us unique. Maybe, I don't know, maybe we have this, I'm going to say this in the Buddhist sense, this dissociation, so to speak, between the being, the existence, and this desire to destroy or to think we are not what we are. I do believe that the common composition of everything is really important in the sense of physics, like Heraclitus, like Anaximander, like Thales. I do believe things could be thought once again like those philosophers. I do believe the common composition has something to say in the way we understand things. So the sing of the bird, of course, there are no molecules or atoms. They are and they're not. My voice, my body is molecules, is cells, is atoms, and they're not at the same time. This is a very difficult arena when material and not material, corporeal and not corporeal are once again in our discussions, because the fundamental, I don't know, the foundations of the matter is not matter. We all know that already. And that is really important when we think of misery, when we think of poetry. You tell me, not all poiesis is technique. We could discuss that, because those terms are in Greek really, really close. And that's something really important. So Heidegger shows they are close as techne and episteme, as you all know, right? Techne and episteme, techne and poiesis. So we could discuss that with the text, of course, Greek text and all that thing. But how can we put the distinction between poiesis and techne? Where do we put the line? Where? I don't know. Because all creation, as Diogenes says, all creation, all poiesis, all these poiesis have causes, and we can find causes in this interwoven approach. Interconnection is a post-human approach, as Francesca Fernando says. And since this point of view, this interconnection point of view, where, how can I draw a line? Is that okay? Mark a line between what's alive and what's not alive, what's psychos or empsychos, as Aristotle used to say, with soul, with no soul. Where do I put this line? What's poiesis and what's not? Why am I so unique, so superior? Why do I have to think of myself superior than the beaver, or like the bird, or like the fly, or like the bee. I don't see that. I really don't feel in my heart, and I don't see in this exceptionalism with our intelligence or with our way of existence. We are different.
Okay, I think we should stop there. So thank you for it's a good point to end on the question of exceptionalism. I wanted to just open it up because we do have some things going on in the chat context. Several thank yous. Thank you for the great presentation. I'll read two questions out, and for starters, one quite short. Technology imitates nature, but does it ever harm nature? First question.
I didn't hear you. I didn't hear you well, Trevor. Can you repeat the
Technology
question?
imitates nature, but does it ever harm nature?
Harm.
Harm, yes.
Okay.
Second question. I wonder if we should establish cosmotechnical reading, as Hook-Hui suggests in discussion with Heidegger, in order to question the link between what we today call technology and its claim to universality. I can read that second one again if you'd like.
Yes, because I didn't understand it very well.
I wonder if we should establish a cosmotechnical reading in order to question the link between what today we call technology and its claim to universality. So there's two questions. You can address both or one.
I have a problem with the audio right now, and I couldn't hear the second part of the second question.
Okay, why don't we just start with the first question then?
Okay, because I have a problem, I don't know, with microphone, I don't know. First question is really important, and I do agree with it. Technology is harming nature, of course. Our technology is harming nature, not beaver's technology, the birds' technologies, our technology, and not all our technology, of course. And I want to think of the goodness, I don't know if that's okay, when we do things, when we create things with not all our technology is harming, is that okay? The nature.
Yeah.
I remember Socrates saying technology can be very mean in a way. And Gorgias says, well, it depends on how and who uses technology or technique. Technique is, I think, one of the most important things of posthumanism today, as Rosy Guidotti said, and Francesca Ferrando too, is the consideration of something like this. Heraclitus used to say it too. Things are. Things are. And if we can change the way we think and the way we relate with cosmos and the world and nature, not necessarily we should harm everything with our technique. So I don't see technique or technology, and I don't make the difference in this paper. I don't see technique or technology as a bad thing, as the enemy. No, as Francesca says, it's part of the revelation of existence, technology. And when posthumanism is discussing life once again, and some authors do not use the word life because it has problems, because life is some functions, some beings have to make. Is that okay? Mm-hmm. We have questions. We have, for instance, professors from University of Osaka, engineers making robots. they are asking themselves, what is life? What's happening here? What's happening with these things that are able now to make things like us? And I think we have a problem always comparing, for instance, AI with us, comparing with us. I think maybe real, or maybe there are possibilities to understand them and to let them be, and not considering them in this like a competition. You know, that's what I mean. I think we could discover them. I think, and this is dangerous, I know, but maybe we could listen and see what's happening without comparing this new existence, these new beings, so to speak, and trying to see. That's why I think not every technique or technology must be or have to be must harm nature.
Mm. Okay, David had his hands up. Let's go to David.
Okay, yes. I think this goes right back to the whole point about the distinction between techne and technology. Just very quickly here, techne is an external efficient cause. So I use the example of the bench. Now, you could say that the carpenter does harm the tree by cutting off the branch and building a bench up from it. I suppose Heidegger's use of the black forest sort of suggests there's a symbiosis, that the technician, in this instance, the carpenter, works with the forest, the black forest, in this way, and the bench is sort of interconnected with all of these things. Similar to the windmill in the Rhine River Valley, it's a techne in the sense that it uses, let's say, the wheat growing in the field across from the bridge on the other field to make bread that goes to the bakery, and thus the entire Rhine River Valley community is interconnected in the way I think Lorena would appreciate. That's techne, at least as far as Heidegger is going. Technology, and this is more my gloss because we don't have tons of time here, is that in a way it is the creation of a artificial internal efficient cause. So the obvious example we could use is something like genetic engineering. Genetic engineering, going in and manipulating the DNA for health reasons, let's just say. Like, these are good intentions. This isn't to create some sort of, two-headed fish from The Simpsons. This is to, cure diseases, let's say Parkinson's disease, for lack of a better option. But it's a fundamental and what's the word I'm looking? Opposite of temporary, full-time. What's the opposite of temporary, Trevor?
Permanent.
Throw me a bone.
Permanent.
What?
Permanent.
Permanent. Thank you. Where did my vocab go? Permanent. And I don't even speak Spanish, so I have no excuse. Okay. Permanent imposition on the natural world, so that techne infuses physis in a permanent way. That's the distinction. So the beaver dam, or let's say the spider web, let's say they are techniques, that they are examples of techne, but they are not technology. And that, I think, is the critical distinction.
Of course.
That's the critical distinction that I think needs to be made here. And you could call it the distinction between a permanent imposition versus a temporary imposition. The beaver dam, by design, will eventually rot and fall away. It's part of the ecosystem. The Rhine River Valley Reservoir is designed to be permanent as such until, of course, we blow it up with dynamite and replace it with something else. So that's the distinction, anyhow. I've gone
the distinction. Yeah, of course. But this distinction doesn't work for me, so to speak, because I'm seeing everything from the interconnection view, interwoven. Is that okay? View. I mean, that's why I don't make this distinction in this paper or when I'm trying to elaborate this vision. Because, yes, this is technique, but this is technology, but this is, I'm trying to put the light on the revealing the possibilities of existence as a monism, as a dynamic monism, is that okay? Dynamic monism, as we say of Heraclitus, for instance. We can talk about existential monism too, and the condition of to be alive, as Rossi Bertotti says, the zoe of existence. The impossibility to draw a line between things, that's my point. Takes me to try to understand the plurality, the expression of existence in the terms of technique, in the antique sense of technique. That's my point. That's why it's not so important to me right now. I'm just elaborating right now. As Hillman says, the difference between the example of the dam is Hillman's, and the hammer we use to do something, you know. When composition is common, when I'm trying to understand the existence as a monism, a plural monism, alive, in constant movement, in constant expansion and expression. And I try to understand this sophisticated expression as technology, understanding technology as the revelation of existence. I don't feel the need to make this distinction, but I do understand, David, perfectly what you mean, and I should consider the difference in this elaboration.
Can I just say something about that? I wonder if how are the harms of making categories and differentiating similar or different from not making categories? We don't have time to get into it now. I'm just responding to the very last point you're making regarding caution about making categories and pointing out differences. And I'm wondering the consequences of that. But I'm sorry, we can't, I just, off the top of my head, we can't get into it. I just wanted to say that we do have a good discussion in the chat, what I'm going to do is I'm going to share it with you. I'll cut and paste it into an email and I can share it with you. I see Oscar Valles had multiple questions that he couldn't get all at the same time. And there was a second question, again, referencing the philosopher Hook Hui, who I don't know, but I'll look up. So I'm going to put all these together into an email and share it with you. And if anyone wants to email me, we could coordinate a dialogue that way. But we should stop at this point. And I wanted to thank our audience for participating online. And also, of course, thank our presenter and respondent, Lorena Rojas-Parma. Thank you very much from Caracas, and David Tabachnick for the respondent.
Thank you, David. Thank you very much.
Yes. Okay. Thank you to you both. Really appreciate it. Okay. Bye for now.
Okay. Bye. Thank you very much.